drowning in the...
Somebody hit the intro.
I think I'm going to have to hit the intro.
Meow.
Meow. Meow.
Guys, welcome as always to what's becoming sort of a regular thing now. The volley on a Monday night. Technically, it's Tuesday morning in the UK. But welcome to the volley. I am the Matt Willis, and I am joined, well, as always, by the podfather himself, Mag. It's always nice to see the
Kablam, folks. Kablam.
Mr. Kablam himself. Always good to see you, sir. And we are being graced by someone who decided to show up for the first time on the volley.
The brains behind Radio Tekkers, so I've heard.
It's right up here.
Allegedly so. We get to see it, guys. But yeah, so we are here to discuss the 10 fixtures of the English Premier League from week. I want to think it's match day 8. Yes, match day 8. Yes. So I always get this wrong, and even though I actually look it up in advance, it's bizarre, isn't it? So we're going to go through. Thank you, Tanner, for scoffing there. Thank you for that.
I have no idea what week it is. I should
know what day of the week it is. Well, shouldn't I? I really should. So we're going to have a look through the 10 figures and try and rattle through them as fast as possible. Now, the first match, obviously, on the card, gentlemen. We've got on the card. Back resting days here, almost, aren't I? The first match of the weekend was, again, we actually covered here on Radio Tekkers, so we'll push past it quite quickly, because we said everything at the time about this, but Mags would certainly lend his credence to his thoughts on Watford 0, Liverpool 5.
I thought it was a shit, boring game. Of very little consequence. Liverpool should be ashamed of that performance. In reality, it was outstanding. The front three were unplayable. This was the front three that won a Premier League not a couple of seasons ago. This was the front three that devastated teams up and down the country, up and down Europe. I've ragged on Bobby Firmino over the last season or so for being well out of sorts and kind of like losing that step. This is the Bobby Firmino that was a predator in the box. He was the first to every loose ball. He was in the right place at the right time. It's a team playing with passion, with energy. Everything that Liverpool did turned to gold. Every player stood up and were countered. The ball from Salah for the first goal was like sex on a football. It was absolutely glorious. And one touch outside of the boot, perfectly placed. The ball from Milner to cut back to Firmino for one of his goals was stunning. The ball from Robertson for one of Firmino's goal was phenomenal. And then to kind of have the icing on the cake, we had Twinkle Toes himself doing exactly what he did against Manchester City, sending the Watford defenders for a dance. It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. A stellar performance by Liverpool. I'm disappointed that I had to miss that game.
Indeed, it was a game that I bear in mind how much. What is it? Me and Tanner can have red tinted glasses on in literal terms.
No.
But at the same time, I try to remain impartial. But when you look at the stats going through that game, it was, I think, Watford were not going to get 0 by the end of the game, to be brutally honest, because that may be the most. I said it on the show at the time. That may have been the most one-sided football match I have seen in the Premier League.
Yeah, I agree. It was phenomenal to watch, and statistically, Liverpool just destroyed Watford. Played them off the park. I mean, Watford had 24% possession, 19 shots to Liverpool. Watford had 6. 8 of those shots on target for Liverpool. Watford had 2. It was a capitulation in every sense of the word. It was a stunning performance. And on the BBC Sport website, no player from Liverpool scored less than a 7.3.
I'm guessing that's Kelleher.
Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Wow. Didn't we see much of him when he came on, to be brutally honest? But that's that is what it is, unfortunately. I was discussing this with someone I was working with today. And Tanner, you're probably going to be equally as biased as me on this side of things. Hello to Tanner, Mags, and Matt from Conor McCabe. Always good pleasure to see you, sir. Thank you for support as always. Someone at work today said to me, the scary thing about the game was that Liverpool never got out of second gear, really.
No. That should be a worry for every Premier League team that they face in the next few games, because they could turn this up. They could easily turn this up.
Yeah. Exactly. Go on, Tom.
Yeah, no, this looked like this was probably the most reminiscent performance of Liverpool's Premier League championship run that we've seen since they've won the title. I think that towards the end of that season, they even took their foot off the gas a little bit, and then we all know what happened last year with Liverpool as far as injuries go, and the whole season was basically a crisis. This looked like a Liverpool team that was just unstoppable. It was unplayable, as Mag said. The front three was just perfect. They were literally perfect. Against Watford, and it was it was reminiscent of this is very fitting because the new Halloween movie is on Peacock right now, and this was like watching Michael Myers strangle Watford as a club. This was Liverpool just demolishing them, and obviously we know that there's a difference in class between Liverpool and Watford at this point, but I didn't expect for it to go down like this.
Indeed. Conor McCabe is saying to stay calm in the chat, and to be fair, he has a point. It was Watford we played.
Yes.
But at the same time, you can only play who's in front of you.
Exactly. And I think this is Claudio Ranieri's heaviest ever defeat in the Premier League. It was just... There's no other word for it than capitulation, and props to Sadio Mane for joining teammate Mo Salah and Didier Drogba as part of the 3 in the 100 club from African nations in the Premier League. What a way to cap off a stellar performance. It's as simple as that.
What's even more impressive is that he's done it without taking penalties. A lot of the other players on that list of players from Africa who've reached 100 goals, they've taken penalties. Mo Salah included. Didier Drogba
lot of players
included.
on the list of 100 goals in general have taken penalties. To be brutally honest,
it's
very rare you get players of that caliber reaching that number without having a penalty or 2 in there. I'm not saying that he hadn't taken 1 or 2 in his career. Probably at Southampton he did, but yeah. And of course, this is also without Alisson and without Fabinho as well. Of course, Kelleher did a reasonable job in the sticks. He's a safe pair of hands
for the little that he had to do. With
True,
2 shots on target.
Yeah, he had a fierce one that was shoved right down his throat. But I've seen goalkeepers let them go through their legs, and mistakes happen all the time. But Kelleher seemed like a safe pair of hands when called upon, which is always a good thing. And we mentioned at the time, Milner seemed to be playing the 10 role at the time, not holding, which was kind of like his Leeds United days.
Absolutely, and I think Milner is going to go down as one of the Premier League greats. He's just excels in so many different positions. It's scary just how capable of a footballer he actually is. Whilst Chris destroys Matt's kitchen there.
Yeah, I suppose that he was just it was maybe like a somebody just demolishing Tokyo.
Gaika.
Right, so we can talk about Liverpool, but we're not going. We're going to move on to Aston Villa versus Wolves.
Rightfully so.
This game, I don't think I've ever seen a team capitulate a lead with 10 minutes to go quite so easily. Aston Villa, obviously, we talked about how Danny Ings has been an integral part to the to already this season. Great signing. I think the pittance they paid for him personally. And obviously, Tanner's favourite Scotsman, John McGinn, on the score sheet. It was a good goal. A very good goal. And then
I mean, it could have started so much better for Wolves as well. Adama Traore damn near scored a Sam Maximin style goal, just ripping defenders apart. But if it wasn't for a great save by Emi Martinez. But yeah, this was a massive collapse by Wolves. And I think this match kind of epitomised a lot of this week's Premier League football. Very entertaining, lots of end-to-end action, and some really good goals. I mean, John McGinn's goal was top draw. But I think Wolves just kept knocking at the door. They just wouldn't take no for an answer. And even when the shots, especially for the first one, and I think the Conor Cody goal, the ball just didn't seem to want to go over the line. But they kept hammering away and kept creating more of a chance and breaking past the defenders to the point where the ball eventually had to go over the line and really kind of frustrating the Aston Villa defence. Tyrone Mings especially was getting very aerated. But yeah, this is a good result for Wolves. A result that they really needed to keep up with that pack at the top of the table. And it's very disappointing for Villa because whilst they lost their big star in Jack Grealish, I thought that they've spent their money pretty well. They bought some pretty good players. They've really kind of bulked out their squad, but the results just don't seem to be going right for them. And the defence is really letting them down at times. But Wolves, I think, deserve this result. They played out of the skin for at least in the second half and really kind of brought a big balance back to the play. I think in the first half they were something like 10 shots to 4 down. And then it ended up being 14-9, so really kind of leveled it up, and they had more of the ball, 52% to 48%. So I think they deserve the comeback, and it's back to the drawing board for Aston Villa, I think.
Indeed, Wolves of course jumped ahead of Aston Villa in this game. Max is saying there that as we need to go back to the drawing board. Tanner, where do you think they need to look at most?
Finishing is certainly, I think, the place.
When you're 2 up, you should. That's a good thing, isn't it? Already.
Well, yeah. I mean, they did a very good job in that regard. But let's look at the stats real quick. Aston Villa had 14 shots to Wolves 9, 5 of which were on target for Aston Villa, whereas 4 were on target for Wolves. Wolves were certainly the much more clinical team. And Villa, rightfully so, could have and should have put this game away a lot sooner than they did. So I think that you gotta be more clinical now, even more so without the likes of Jack Grealish. I think hand in hand with that is you gotta find a way to actually finish a game. You got to be able to shore up something to where you have enough to put the stops in. Had Wolves not scored in the 80th minute, they may have been okay, but they just completely collapsed in the last 15 minutes of the game. And yeah, Villa are left, looking at 3 points up, and instead are looking at 3 points lost.
It's not good, for sure. But hopefully they can turn it around, next week. Who have they got next week? I'm not off the top of my head, I can't remember, but...
I think it's Arsenal,
Arsenal, who, of course, we'll be talking about later on, of course.
Yeah, Arsenal next Friday, this coming Friday.
This Friday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, 3 p.m. Eastern, and 8 p.m. British Standard Time.
It will be a Oh, it should be a tasty one, to be fair, because let's face it, both teams need the points. Because, yeah, Villa losing ground already, and some people are to be very believe this year, and by that I mean me. So, which is never good. Right, let's move on to a game which was really feisty, and it's appropriate we do this as Sai from the SJP Wrestling Podcast and Chain Wrestling drops in the chat. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
Hello, Si.
Get to editing.
It's Leicester 4, Man United 2.
Mm.
So, as we have two Liverpool fans here, we're not going to sit and point and laugh at Manchester United because we can do that all year. So instead, I would like to say, what went wrong?
I mean, where do you want to start? Look,
They fought back twice.
I mean, statistically, this match was very even down the middle. Hair splitting in between possession. Shots were fired left, right, center. This was so end-to-end. 40 shots in total. 17 on target between the two of them. This was a case of the issue being finishing. Leicester were not only clinical, but pretty much all of their goals were worldies, absolute worldies. And even Greenwood started the day with a worlder. That was closed down by Tielemans, who one-upped him with a glorious goal. Daka finally got on the score sheet, so I'm absolutely pleased as punch about that. But it was just, I think this solidifies what we've been saying all season, that Leicester are now a top six club. And the issue now for me in terms of Manchester United is, how have they improved the squad from last season? So last season they finished second, obviously by a long way, but they did finish second. And we, as a football community, felt they only needed really to kind of add to that, and they'll be pushing for honours. They've spent a lot of money, brought in some big name players, but it feels that they've took a step back. That those players haven't added enough to the team to bring them to within touching distance of the teams around them. It's really, really concerning. But this is how Man United were at the beginning of last season, and they built back up to become almost title contenders at the end of it. So I don't think it's all doom and gloom. There were certainly positives from it, but the pressure must now be on Solskjaer. It must be. After big spending in the pre-season to be in this position, it's got to be a big weight on his shoulders.
And let's not forget, of course, that Varane's out injured for a month, obviously, and he's a big loss because he's clearly their big centre half to be alongside Maguire. Obviously, Sai's favourite centre half, Lindelof, was at centre half this week and actually got an assist as well. So that's the bizarre thing about it. Obviously, Man United's next game, Tanner, what do you make their chances next game? If they play like this against the next opponent, what do you think is going to happen?
I mean, if we're judging on the performance that Man United gave here versus the performance that Liverpool gave against Watford, obviously I know there's a gulf in class there between Watford and Leicester, but I think United would get run over. They would get absolutely steamrolled by a Liverpool team that is alight with, enthusiasm right now, it seems. And again, that's not to put down, United. They've invested well. I think that they had a window that, Liverpool, amongst a whole host of other teams in the Premier League, and I would say arguably all of Europe, would want to have. They signed Ronaldo. They signed Jadon Sancho. They signed Rafael Varane. That's an amazing window here. But
I would agree. I fully agree. But I do feel that Ronaldo, he started like a house of fire, but he's cooled off a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's a major
it's
problem.
It's only like 3 games, I think, he hadn't scored. But even so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's a major problem, right? Let's look at some of the stats that Mags had brought up. United had 18 total shots, only finished 2 of them for goals. That's what, 1 in 9? that's horrible, right? United clearly have an issue with either being too dependent on Ronaldo or not having enough guns to supply it next to him. And I'm really wondering why they're not playing Cavani next to him. If I'm being perfectly honest, you've got a proven finisher in Cavani, and you've got a workhorse who can do everything in Ronaldo. It makes sense to play them next to each other.
It does, but then you've also got Mason Greenwood, who is being touted as England's next great hope. I personally think there's a lot of holes in his game, but his class in front of goal cannot be denied. Mm-hmm. The issue for me is that as good as Ronaldo is, and it's brilliant that he's back in the Premier League, this was very much a panic buy. It was bringing him in to keep him away from Manchester City, and they've had to kind of change how they would set up to fit Ronaldo in this team, because he's not the Ronaldo that left the club over a decade ago. He's not got the pace. He's not got the engine anymore. He's not the same kind of player. He's way more of a sit back in front of the attacker rather than leading from the front. And I think United really kind of are still getting used to this whole kind of build a team around Ronaldo ethic, which they probably wouldn't have had Ronaldo not quickly come up on the market and needed to be snapped up.
Well, and I'll acknowledge that Size made a really good point here in the chat, and of course this goes without saying. Cavani could not play in this last match due to COVID restrictions, but I still believe that we could even go back a couple weeks ago and say the same exact thing. Why isn't Ronaldo playing, alongside Cavani? I think that with Mason Greenwood and particularly Marcus Rashford as well, I think the four of them can combine to make a really good rotational strike partnership of sorts. But you gotta give something's got to give at this point, whether that be Ole, whether that be a change of something. It just seems like they're just so up and down right now.
Indeed.
And in this game, the issue was certainly the defence. Maguire, who normally leads from the back, was terrible. There's no two ways to call it. He was at fault for a lot of the issues. He was in the wrong position a lot of the time. He gave away the ball so many times. He was woeful. And yeah, he definitely needs to hang his head in shame for this performance.
I have similar feeling about that. I mean, I'm not a big Harry Maguire fan, but his other side on the pitch, he is a fantastic and a half, but he went missing this weekend for sure.
Yeah, let's talk about Harry Maguire as well. There's the footage that we've all seen on Twitter of Harry Maguire defending in front of De Gea, and defending I think would be a relatively loose term here. He's just kind of standing in place, watching everything happen, and not being a progressive defender at all. He's not trying to stamp out fires.
And especially when you've lost that partnership with Varane, who is a rock, and that you've got someone like Lindelof who can be sloppy at the best of times. He needed to stand up and be counted, and he certainly wasn't. And you spoke about the match on Sunday. I think Man United have got problems before that, because midweek they've got to face Atalanta. They've not had the best of Champions League starts this season, and I think if Atalanta continue the form that they've had over the past 2 years, it's going to be a very long week for Man United.
Indeed. And of course, we talk about United so much, of course, we need to give Leicester credit, of course, because they had a great day, of course. Yeah. 54 seconds between Rashford's goal, which was his first goal back after being out himself, and Vardy scoring the goal to go 3-2 up. That was... I literally, my phone just buzzed, and then buzzed, and then buzzed. It was a wonderful thing to see. I thought, this is going to take some risk explaining on the volley, so here we are. Jimmy Vardy still having a party, it seems like, even at his in the twilight of his career.
35, and he's still got his goal boots on. it was a great finish as well. Really well taken. Left the defenders absolutely standing. Leicester fully deserved this win.
Yeah. Up the we should move to the other side of Manchester now. Unfortunately,
No, nothing of note happened. Really.
We do have to touch on it, unfortunately, Max.
We do. I mean, there's no doubt about it. City were the way better team. Burnley were on the back foot for a lot of the game, and by rights that this should have been way more than 2-0. City had 15 shots on Burnley's goal, 71% of the ball. It started off as it was going to go for the whole of the game with Bernardo Silva pouncing on a Pope.
I pounced on the Pope?
No, I mean, I was going to say pouncing on a Pope error, but I actually don't think Pope was at fault. He made a very good late save where he didn't see the ball till the very last second and made a really good save. And it's just City were the first to every single ball. They were to say this wasn't even their real first team. I think they all did really well. And that's not to say that Burnley were dominated all over the pitch. There was a chance that Dwight McNeil played a great ball to Maxwell Cornet. And on another day, that could have easily been an equaliser. Cornet was very, very bright, and Stefan did well to save that. Josh Brownhill had a decent chance. Mahrez, he did well. He came close to scoring when he was just tipped over the bar. But on another day, this could have been 5-6-0. So I think there's a lot to take away from being able to keep City pegged at 2-0. It still means that we're in the danger zone, but the good thing is that the teams around us also drop points. So we're still certainly in the fight there to avoid relegation, and there were a lot of positives to take from it. But when you're coming up against world-class players, it's hard to not lose to them.
This is the case. Night sight. We'll see you soon, buddy. Tanner. Man City normally in times gone by, and I was given this stat by our roving superintendent of statistics and now head tea lady, apparently, according to you yesterday.
Scouting as well.
Scouting
he's
as well.
Head
Yes.
of scouting.
Yes, Mr. Chris Harris. He mentioned that apparently before this game, the aggregate for the last 5 matches between Burnley and Man City was 24-1. Now, it's usually been obviously quite a high-scoring affair for Man City.
Yes.
It was not on this, but it was not on this occasion. It took It took an error. It took a little bit of luck for Man City to actually get the job done, because Burnley are resilient, and that's why I had them pegged as actually getting a point at Man City. I was genuinely hoping that. In fact, it's the only though it didn't come in for my ACCA. So,
I mean, before this season, Man City had beat Burnley at Man City 5-0 4 times in a row. 4 games in a row that they beat us 5-0. So 2-0 is a victory. Essentially, we beat them 3-0 if we want to do the maths. So there, I'm happy with that.
Fair enough. We won't dwell on too much for you, Mags. But I think Burnley probably thought they were going to come away from this fixture with no points anyway. Anything would have been a bonus. This was one of the games that you probably weren't expecting to get points at.
No,
so
absolutely not.
It's more like teams like your Norwiches, your Southamptons, your Brentfords.
I mean, that's not to say we're not desperate for a win. No. We are it's getting down. It's squeaky bum time. We really need to pick up any kind of victory in the next few games. But I think once we get that first victory, we'll start rattling off a few more, because our performances are actually really good. Probably, I would say our football looks better than we played last season. But the goals are not coming, unfortunately.
Burnley have Southampton next Saturday.
We do.
It's a huge game because they are. It is almost a 6-pointer, if not an actual 6-pointer.
Yeah, if Southampton win, they would then go, I think, about 7 points clear of Burnley. If we win, we go 1 point behind them. So that is a huge game for Burnley.
Yeah, and it's a 3 o'clock kickoff as well. So unfortunately, we can't cover that on Tekkers. Unfortunately, I'd love to personally cover the game. Be a nice little scrappy little match. But also at the bottom end of the table are, as my mother likes to call them, Norwich. In the accent too. Norwich 0.
Is she German? I didn't realise her mum was German.
She's just Essex girl, doesn't like Norfolk.
From the northeast of America.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
does she like coffee? Waffles?
Norwich.
Norwich City 0.
Is she or is she not a narc?
Norwich 0, Brighton Hove Albion 0. Norwich are like keeping clean sheets now, which is what they need to do badly. Mm-hmm. But the wins are not but getting points from 0-0 draws is not going to keep them up.
I mean, how Brighton and Norwich ended 0-0 is absolutely beyond me. Both teams should have scored. Trossard was lively. Sanchez was crazy, I want to say, especially when he came out and almost took the head off his own defenders to then lay off a beautiful pass for Sargent, who just didn't have the power to get the shot on target. But yeah, how this ended 0-0 is beyond me. A lot of VAR controversy in the early part of this game. Pukki had a great chance to see the game off at the death, but if it wasn't for an amazing tackle at the end, how this stayed 0-0, it's unreal. It really is.
And yet, with that draw, because of what happened around them, Brighton moved up to 4th.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Brighton in the Champions League places. I think Brighton are saying end the season now. We'll take it. That's a team I didn't think would be up there. Obviously, take a team of the year last year. Nice to see him getting some good stuff done.
I also don't know how Tim Krul stayed on the pitch. Whether you say he impeded for the goal, that's neither here nor there. But it's the fact that he essentially dragged Maupay by the arm after Maupay claimed for a penalty. I don't understand how he didn't get booked or sent off for that.
I can't answer that question, unfortunately. Tanner, can you?
No. I think that he should have been sent off.
Thanks for your input, guys.
I can't answer that question because because he should have been sent off.
Yeah, it's quite obvious he should have been sent off. But I mean, that would have certainly changed the outlook of the game. that certainly would have had some kind of impact here. I think that if you're Brighton, you got to feel. I mean, obviously, on one hand, you got to feel pleased because you're in 4th place. You're fighting for a Champions League spot. This is actually like they are overperforming at this point.
Oh, absolutely.
But at the same time, I think they found themselves here in this situation before they even came to the game, where they were looking at Champions League spots. You got to feel like this might be 2 points lost here as opposed to 1 point gained. They should have put Norwich to the sword here on a number of occasions, as Mags pointed out. And like I said, they certainly could have ended up maybe solidifying that place more.
Well, yeah, and possessions wise, Brighton dominated this game. They had nearly double the amount of possession that Norwich had.
Yep.
But Norwich had 15 shots. Compared to Brighton's 11. So the use of the ball was certainly in Norwich's favour. So I think both teams can look at this as maybe points dropped rather than a point gained. Right now, I think Norwich will be the happier team because they came away with something. But yeah, I think you're right. I think Brighton can look back at this game and think we could have been in third place if we'd have won this game.
It could be points lost as far as they're concerned. I think Norwich will be the happier team. They needed the 1 point rather than losing more. But it's hard to get excited about Norwich for me. I just have this irrational hatred for Norwich, unfortunately.
That's really mean.
It is slightly mean, yes, but it's irrational due to geography, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
It's a geography thing. It's pretty much the same with
you just don't like the place where they're located on the globe. Is that the problem?
Yes, Mags would feel the same way about Blackburn, I'm sure.
I mean, are they Clacton's rivals? They're not in the same course, really.
No, but Norfolk and Essex.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, Norfolk and Essex hate each other.
Yeah, because they're crap at cricket, aren't they? Norfolk and Essex are really, really good.
Yeah, among other reasons. Yeah. Let's move on. Before we move on, though, let's just do a shout out to everything progressing in the chat. It's
Conrad, sir, how are you?
Always happy to hear from you, sir.
And Matt has decided to ditch.
Matt's dropped out. He gone.
Does this every single time. He clicks the leave the studio button rather than the click off. Yeah.
Well, let's carry on from here. Let's.
Yeah.
Let's me. Let's sort this quickly.
How do you do it every single time?
I have no idea how to do that. I'm going to figure that one out. Let's move on to Southampton versus Leeds.
Okay.
Armando Broja on his first start, obviously on loan from Chelsea, and scores. Doesn't get much better than it, does it?
I mean, this was as one-sided a 1-0 victory as you will see. Southampton were just peppering the Leeds goal with shots. They had way more of the ball. I think Leeds had more of the ball, but Southampton used it a lot better. 19 shots to 3. Leeds with 0 shots on target. Southampton with 5 on target. Meslier put in an absolutely outstanding performance, and he definitely did not deserve to be on the losing side. And there's been talk of him being linked with Liverpool, and I think he would be a really good backup to Alisson. I think he's going to be a keeper who's going to be a world beater in the next few years. But he was still on the losing side, and it feels that maybe Bielsa ball has been found out. People are quickly learning how to frustrate Leeds and how to stop them turning that possession into chances. And Southampton really smashed and grabbed them. Just threw everything at the Leeds defence, and eventually broke them down into the last few minutes. And Broja fully deserved the goal. Had a really good game. Could have on another day could have had a hat trick, but Southampton will be very, very pleased with this result.
It was a great performance. I am worried if Leeds kept having games like that, then they could start sliding back into the fight for the bottom of the table. And Bielsa ball, when it plays well, it's amazing. But as you say, they may have been found out. Tanner, you've championed Bielsa ball for the entirety of the last season and a half. Has it been found out? Is Mag right?
I think it has been to an extent. I think that they've seen what's happened. Other teams have seen what Bielsa has been able to achieve with Leeds, and obviously now there's plenty of evidence that you can look at here in terms of how Leeds have set up this team. That being said, I think that there's certainly tactical issues here as well. I think that one major thing that's been going on is that there's just I don't know. Like there does not seem to be very much of a consistent thing here right now with Leeds. They've changed the formation a little bit here. You're actually looking at more of a 3-3-3-1 with Rodrigo up at the top as opposed to Bamford. Bamford, surprisingly, has actually been a more effective striker here.
And I think that's a big factor in this game. Leeds did have a lot of injuries, and it shows their reliance on Bamford, shows their reliance on Calvin Phillips, that when the big names are missing, they don't have that steel, I suppose. I think Rafinha was also missing through injury. So on another day, with those players fit, it could have been a different result. But you need a squad of players who can fit into a role when somebody is not available, and it just doesn't seem that Leeds have got that quality depth, I suppose.
Well, and I think that we also have to wait a little bit here. Again, we're looking at a team that has now adjusted with a different kind of formation. This is a formation that Pep Guardiola kind of actually stole a bit from Bielsa back when Guardiola was still with Bayern Munich. So I think the methodology is there. I think it's just there's an adjustment period. I would say we should re-examine where Leeds are maybe 4 to 6 matches down the road of them playing like this and see
if they stick with this formation.
If they stick with this formation, or even just on form, let's see where Leeds is 4 to 6 games down the road here as we head into the winter period, and assess more from there. But I think that Leeds are far from finished at this point.
And yeah, they've got Wolves this weekend at home, so Wolves have always been a Jekyll and Hyde team. If they can catch Wolves on a bad day, that can certainly give Leeds the chance for some points. But if we get a Wolves that we saw against Villa, it might be another a long day at the office for Leeds.
Indeed, and that's a perfect lead, isn't it, actually, Mags? Because talking about long days at the office, Brentford versus Chelsea, which was the evening game, of course. Now, Brentford had a knack of upsetting teams this year, causing trouble.
Can you call them upsets now? I mean, you're talking that they're 8 games into the season, 12 points still in the scrap for those European places. Are they upsetting teams? I don't think they are. I think they're just not afraid. They're just not afraid of anybody.
For sure. And let's not forget, of course, that for large parts of the game, Chelsea did control that game. However, for the last half hour or so, Brentford made Chelsea dig in, and like we saw with the game when they had a man sent off early in the season against Liverpool, they dug in and got the point.
And it shows how good Brentford were that Edouard Mendy got man of the match, because he was putting a career-defining performance. I thought that he was absolutely stupendous. He was so damn good, just unbeatable. Arguably, on his day, one of the best keepers in the world. And I think he really stood up and was counted in this game. But I think that just is a testament to Brentford and their mentality that they're not scared of anybody. This is a team that won the Champions League, and Brentford took it to them as if they were Doncaster in the Championship. They just have no fear, and it's refreshing to see from a team that's never been in the Premier League before, and for them to not be frightened of teams like Liverpool and City and Chelsea, and be able to stand up to these teams on the pitch and give their all. Yeah, Chelsea came away with the point. with the points and fully deserved it. I thought that Werner and Lukaku played well together again. They're forming a really good attacking lineup, and Ben Chilwell. I don't know where he's found this purple patch of form, but he's at now 3 goals in 3 games from him, more than he's scored in like the last 3 seasons. It's a great run of form for Chilwell, but this was a really good performance by Brentford. I was massively impressed with them.
I think that I will agree with Mags to the extent of about 95% of everything that he said. The only part where I would slightly disagree is I think that Chelsea actually got lucky. If you look again at the stats here, Chelsea fired off 5 shots, and only one of which was on target, and that's the one that they scored. You know, you look at Brentford. Brentford rifled off 17 shots, 7 of which were on target.
I mean, and Mbeumo hit the woodwork twice.
Exactly. So like Mag said, Edouard Mendy saved saved Chelsea literally from getting put to the sword here by Brentford.
But then, whilst you're absolutely correct with your statistical analysis, I think we need to add the caveat that 15 of those shots came in the second half. So first half they were massively penned back, and actually 12 of those 15 from the second half came in the last 10 minutes. So this was a Chelsea who were just absolutely pinned with their backs to the wall, very Mourinho-esque in kind of like parking the bus, and just being like a brick wall to break through. They in the last 15 minutes, Brentford spent 40% of their time in the Chelsea final third, which is phenomenal for a team that is probably going to go on and at least be up there in terms of the league. It's going to be there or thereabouts in terms of the Champions League. For the young upstart Brentford to pin a team like Chelsea back for that long, that's phenomenal. That is absolutely phenomenal.
Absolutely. I've got a lot of... I mean, I had respect for Brentford when it came out. I was like, they're going to cause up... At the time, I thought they're going to cause upsets throughout the season. They're going to be scrappy. They're going to be dogged. And they're going to have no fear. They beat Arsenal, obviously. They took points off Liverpool. They do not have any fear. They do not care. They will go for you. And if you can repel them, then bravo. For sure. I want to see what happens next weekend when they play Leicester.
Mm-hmm. But the thing is, they're getting all these big 6 teams or big 10 teams in the very early stages of the season, and they're hanging with them. So they're now well entrenched in the top half of the table. If they get a run of getting the lower teams, the Palaces and the Watfords and the Burnleys, they could easily push for higher than 7th, because if they can pick up points against Manchester City and Liverpool, they're certainly going to be able to pick up points against Palace, against Villa, against Watford. So yeah, we can see this Brentford team higher than we're actually seeing them now.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. And I look forward to seeing what happens as long as we're not above Liverpool. But never say never. Never say never. So far, Moneyball is working. They deserve to get something out of this game, in my opinion. Yeah. But Chelsea, dare I say, Tuchel did a better job than Mourinho defending a 1-0 lead?
I mean, on this performance, yes. Throughout the career, I don't think Thomas Tuchel has needed defenders to have their backs against the wall for long periods of games. He's very an attack-minded manager. Mourinho's is definitely a smash and grab and park the bus star manager.
It's very true, but we saw a couple of times this season already where he's had to do that.
He does seem to have changed his philosophy somewhat here this season.
Or Tanner, he's just got a plan B this time.
I mean, we could call it a plan B, but he seems to be doing it week in, week out. He's certainly shoring up and making Chelsea a lot more compact. It looks like he's fully satisfied with pumping the brakes and shutting up shop after completing a 1-0 or 2-0 lead. I think he's finding pockets where he feels as though this is comfortable. Let's shut it down, and he does. And that's what earns the 3 points at the end of the day, right?
I mean, maybe that's getting him being more used to the Premier League now, and knowing that he has to compete on so many different fronts.
Yeah.
There's a screen for success in all competitions. That once the job is done, there's no point overstretching and risking injuries and things like that. So maybe it is a case of taking that kind of element of Mourinho's game plan, and when you know the victories in the bag, you just, like I said, pump the brakes a little bit.
Speaking of teams that like to pump the brakes a bit, 2 teams which
These segues,
they get terrible this week. I'm so sorry, but it's inappropriate. A game which was not the most exciting of choices. Everton and West Ham.
I mean, you say that as well, but this again had 31 shots in the whole game. So it was still incredibly end to end. This was very much a smash and grab by West Ham, though.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed, Ogbono's header was good.
But should it have been a corner? I don't think that it should. And I think Pickford was right to be very, very angry at the referee for giving the corner in the first place. And that corner led to the Ogbono goal.
Indeed. And everyone obviously shouting, oh, why can't VAR change that? VAR is not to be used for corners.
It's to assist the referee. I mean, the referee did make a wrong decision. That's the fact. It was Pickford didn't touch the ball last, and that directly lost Everton the points. But they still were beaten on the pitch. I mean, Soucek had the ball in the net after this, which got ruled out for VAR. So they have no one else to blame but themselves. They were wasteful in front of goal. Solomon Rondon does not look like a player who is match fit. It's very Jekyll and Hyde from Everton over the last few games, because they've had some great performances, but then they have performances like this where they are just playing off the park.
I'm watching Tanner here, and he's trying not to laugh about Everton here, I feel. Do you go on, sir?
Yeah, I mean, Everton were not great. they weren't great here. Again, I think that with kind of along the same lines as what we talked about with Tuchel and maybe even Bielsa, is I think that we're seeing an adaptation period here for Everton under new management, and I don't know. This has not gone down very well. Everton are not. This is not the same Everton team that we saw last season. Really challenging and pushing the pace. They've had decent results. They're in the top 10, the top half of the table, which is good. But I think there's I don't know. This is a bit of a worrying result here from a West Ham team that should have.
There's no goal for it. I think that's the issue.
Thank you, Mags. I'm trying to find the right words here. With
the injury to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who led the line last season, there's no two ways about that. I don't think Rondon is anywhere near match ready, but they haven't got much more options. Richarlison is well out of form, and I also think he's nursing an injury. Damari Gray, who's been brought in, I thought he's been lively, but he's not going to get you the 15 to 20 goals a season that Everton are looking at. And I think just how they set up the team, felt so defensive. And when you've got players like Townsend bombing down one wing, Awarby was woeful. That's one of the worst signings that I've seen. He's been absolutely terrible. But then you've got Decore and Allen, who did nothing all game. I think Allen was even at fault for giving away possession a lot of times in this game, which is shocking for Allen. It's just they set up so defensively. There's no worry of a goal threat from them, and it was just they just didn't show up at all. Not one player for Everton really stood up to be counted and wanted to win the game. Whereas on West Ham side, everybody was up for this game. They were the first to the ball. I think Declan Rice controlled the midfield so well, like he does for England. Agbona was great. Antonio was a danger all the way through the game. Even Jared Bowen, who struggled for form, he really performed well. Kurt Zuma was outstanding in defence. He was just like an absolute rocker. I think he may end up being one of the bargains of the season. It was just a good performance by West Ham as a team, and Everton really let themselves down.
Indeed, David Moyes did a good job returning to Goodison Park, obviously with West Ham. Obviously, the Everton fans, they already don't like the fact that Rafa Benitez is in charge of their club, being a former Red.
Even if they would have won all 8 of their first games, they would still hate Rafa Benitez.
The fact that they're losing games in this fashion is not gonna make them any happier.
Absolutely not.
But the obviously the board that cares about things, and he's doing okay.
No.
But I mean, they sold Helen Rodriguez to Qatar, and they haven't replaced her.
Oh, gave her away essentially.
Well, yes, that's the fact. So, Tanner, you better say something, Tanner.
I was just gonna say, secret agent Rafa, he's doing quite the job, and he's I think he's doing what he needs to do to make it look not obvious.
Not so secret agent Rafa, yeah.
Perhaps.
Perhaps indeed. But yeah, West Ham good result and keeps them in the mix for more European football, hopefully for them this year.
It took them above Everton,
which is always a good thing in my book. Now the next game we're going to talk about is the game that you gentlemen and myself briefly,
Rafa's former club.
Yes, Newcastle 2, Tottenham Hotspur 3. We obviously need to also have the caveat of the good news that the fan is recovering in hospital. That collapsed during this game, so that was fantastic news. Obviously, this was a bit of a stop-start game. Obviously, you gentlemen covered most of the game on Tekkers on Sunday.
Well, I'd say we covered all of the game.
I would say every inch of that game.
I was about to say,
we tried our best to cover that game. It was difficult at times.
I was about to say you covered most of the game without me. I was here for a bit of it. You guys filled for England during the 20-minute period, and well done for that. Not entirely sure what happened here. Newcastle had started like a burst of fire. After 10 minutes, just died out.
They had a great first 5 minutes. They had a really good last 5 minutes. It was the 80 in between that was horrific, and that's what let them down. Steve Bruce 1000 game in charge, the first game in charge with the Saudi Public Investment Fund and Team Amanda Staveley. And it started so brightly. A quick goal by Callum Wilson, and we thought maybe these players are standing up to be counted, that they're essentially fighting for their place in the squad. This is now a team that is the richest sporting club in the whole of the world, and these players are probably all on the chopping block. Aside from maybe one or two, they're all on the chopping block to be replaced over the next season or so. So they needed a really good performance to show what they can do. And the first 5 minutes, we got that. It was really good football. Tottenham did what they've been doing over the last few weeks and just bend over and took it dry. It was woeful by Tottenham. And then they just picked up and Kane scored a goal. Was it offside? Was it onside? The referee didn't seem to know, but eventually I think it was Son that told him it was a goal. And then from there, it was just all Tottenham for the next 80 minutes. We did get a break just going close to half time when we had the terrible illness of one of the fans, and props to all the players and medical staff involved for getting that fan the medical attention. We said it on the show, and it bears repeating that they were absolute superstars in getting that fan the medical attention that they needed, and that led to a lull in the game. But when it came back on, it was all Tottenham again. That's where Tottenham got their third goal with Son, and then they just kind of rode the second half because they knew the game was won until the last few minutes when Eric the Pillock slabhead Dyer essentially fired the goal into his own net when he was attempting a header in a position where he should not have attempted to be in. But yeah, they were able to ride that storm. John Joe Shelby essentially signed Bruce's P45 with that ridiculous.
I think he signed his own P45 as well.
Yeah, I mean, it came on in the 60th minute. By the 70th minute, he'd been booked. By the 80th minute, he'd been sent off. What a ridiculous idiot of a player! But it was a Newcastle collapse, and Tottenham didn't have the best of performances, but they certainly did enough to win the game.
Yes. Son certainly started to shine a little bit more in this game again. Obviously, took his goal really well as well. Newcastle, this game was never going to be, that's where we're going to see them like immediately turn to like they're winning 3-4-0 straight away, sort of thing, and they're scoring goals, and they'll all be household names.
Yeah.
Generally fear that most of that squad will probably be carted out between now and the end of next season.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you look at, the performances that were put in yesterday, I could really only think of 3, maybe 4 players who deserved to still be there after the next 2 to 3 seasons. I think that yesterday, for as the bright spot that was the opening couple minutes before Newcastle needed some PE treatment, I think that yesterday's game was really, it was not really about it was not about do we invest? I think that's obvious, right? It's how much do we need to invest right now?
How many of these players are we replacing?
Exactly. And with the winter window just around the corner, I think that Mags had brought up on Sunday, that Newcastle might need to spend within around the 50 mil mark.
Well, I think it was you, Matt, that mentioned that the rumors are that they're getting 50 million. The chest that they're getting in the January window. Next season, I think they'll need to spend hundreds of millions.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe in January, depending on what the outlook is, that they might even need to try and accelerate that a bit. If they're still in the relegation zone, Newcastle United need to find a way to get out of the relegation zone sooner rather than later. Yeah. Or else this whole thing is going to be, it's going to take a whole lot longer for Newcastle to be lifting the trophies that the Saudi, investment fund wants to see it raise. It's going to be. This was never going to be a Newcastle United win. I think that this was always going to be a litmus test of, where are we now and how bad is it actually? And it turns out it's pretty bad.
It's incredibly bad, and I think you're hitting the nail right on the head. I mean, if this team is in the relegation zone come January, the last thing this Saudi conglomerate want is to be starting next season in the Championship. That will be a massive, massive blow to their plans of essentially football domination over the next decade or so. And you mentioned on the stream yesterday that this is a Championship level team. Take away Alan St. Maximum, take away Lascelles, take away Wilson, there's nobody really there who you would say gets into any other Premier League team. They're all players who are championship level quality, and I think 50 million is not going to be enough if they don't start getting results very, very quickly. They're going to have to spend hundreds of millions in January to get out of this relegation fight, and then still spend hundreds more to take this to the level where they're mid-table. It's a big ask to get this to be a big team in the next few years.
I'm reminded of the days where West Ham had spent money to try and get out of the relegation fight, and did so, to be fair. They brought in Louis Morte for stupid money. That's one of
it was like 23 million from Arsenal, wasn't
it? From Fulham, I think they brought him.
Yeah.
Fulham. It was stupid money they brought him. I mean, they stayed up, yes, but it wasn't because of him.
But it's happened with other clubs, like Portsmouth tried to spend their way out of relegation and ended up falling down the ladder of football.
Indeed.
But they weren't owned by Saudis. Who
Indeed. Newcastle
unlimited money.
Newcastle have the benefit as well of already having the impressive stadium.
Which, to be fair to the fans, it was packed. And there was a buzz there. Just after about 10 minutes, it was, we want Brucey out, and lots of old people in tea towels.
Yeah, that was a bit odd.
It was.
But at the same time, I guess they got into it a little bit. It was also, I also am pleased to hear the booing at the end of the game, because they cared and they want to see better. And if they show that reaction, how the new owner is going to realise. They certainly looked awkward at full time, but clapping at full time was a little awkward. I had to echo what Graham said at the time. I've gone back and watched the stream. Tan, do you even know who Ant and Deck are? Because no, you don't.
Deck looked awkward and tried to leave at the end of that game very, very quickly.
Yeah, it was basically their TV personalities here who win the Best Presenter Award, even though there's two of them every year.
They're the hosts of that Britain's Got Talent and the X Factor stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah. If you can't get Paddy McGuinness, you call for those two.
Sounds fun, I suppose.
Yeah, but to talk more, but I mean, let's remember that Newcastle were not great in the game. Tottenham played okay. Were Newcastle that bad, or Tottenham just good this week, Max?
Newcastle were that bad. I don't think Tottenham was particularly good. I thought that Son was probably a standout. Reguilon had a good game, and I thought Ndombele was the live wire that he normally is. But I don't think Tottenham were particularly good at all. I just think they were better than this terrible Newcastle team.
They were good enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Tottenham, of course, next week, of course, got West Ham. Bit of a big one. Obviously, that's happening just before the Man United Liverpool match. I'll have one eye on it for sure. We don't know what we're doing next week regarding our fixtures we may be covering. So, but I dare say a Sunday fixture will probably be on the cards.
And Newcastle have got the team that we're going to be talking about next. They've got Palace.
Indeed. So let's get to it, shall we? How Palace threw away a win, maybe we should say. Arsenal 2, Crystal Palace 2. Vieira's dream return. Well, bit of a blot on the record book, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean...
Tanner, your thoughts? Oh, back, sorry.
No, it's fine. Tanner, you jump in, sir.
Yeah. This is actually kind of very reminiscent of the Newcastle game, where Arsenal actually started brightly and then, switched off for a bit. Crystal Palace came back in the game, and it was looking, like they were going to walk away with some points here off of Arsenal, and then magically Unlike the Newcastle game, Arsenal came back at the very death of it, and the points were split, point apiece for each not Newcastle, but Arsenal and Crystal Palace. Yeah, man, we've noted how Arsenal are improving here, but again, this has got to feel like another 2 points drop for Arsenal. They played really well, and they shouldn't have gotten themselves into this situation in the first place. As good as Crystal Palace is, as well funded as they were coming into this season, Arsenal should have put this game away. I feel, and they didn't. They continue to look uninspired at times.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Tanner's saying. I think there were certain people who had really poor performances in this game for Arsenal. I think Thomas Partey was horrific in this game. He got caught in possession so many times. Jordan Ayew just absolutely had him in his pocket. I did enjoy the early stages with Pepe and Aubameyang. I thought they were bright together. Aubameyang, we've often accused him on Radio Tekkers of not standing up and being the captain that Arsenal needs, and I think the way he pounced on the loose ball for the first goal shows that he is still a quality striker, that he can still be the talisman that they needed. But they switched off. They absolutely switched off, and in the middle portion of the game, going into the second half, Palace absolutely deserved to take the lead. Great finish for the second goal by Edouard. What an absolute... I knew he would be a star coming to the Premier League, and he absolutely is showing his class. I think Arsenal can count themselves unlucky with Tierney's shot that came off the underside of the bar. But that could have been the equaliser. But at least they showed some grit to force the goal essentially with the last kick of the game. Well, the last touch of the game with Lacazette. But yeah, this on the surface is a point save for Arsenal, but it should have been sealed well before this. They had the most possession. They had double the amount of shots that Palace had. This game should not have got to the point where they were struggling to get an equaliser. It should have been put away way before this. Ramsdale, I felt, had a really good game. He was it could have been way more goals for Palace if it wasn't for him. But yeah, this should have been an Arsenal win, and Vieira can be disappointed, I suppose, that he hasn't come away with it.
Yes, it's been no secret that we all think that Ramsdale's move to Arsenal was overpriced. I said at the time, I think it's a good move for Ramsdale. I think that he'd do well. I did think it was overpriced. Right now, he looks like the only signing that Arsenal made who's actually turning up and actually working hard for the team.
The save from Conor Gallagher's volley was unreal. He saw it late. It was well hit by Conor Gallagher. Some really good skill shown with the outside of the foot. And if it wasn't for Ramsdale, that was in the top corner. And that front kind of four of Palace is so exciting to watch. You've got Elise running down one wing, you've got Conor Gallagher running down the other, and then you've got Benteke who's on your purple patch of form, and Edouard, I think he's been the missing piece that they've needed. This team didn't even miss Zaha. That's how good of a game that they had. That Zaha, who's been their number one guy for the last 5 years, he was not missed. That shows the level of a rebuild that Vieira has been a part of with this Palace team. He can be very, very proud of what he's done in the short time that he's been there.
Indeed, Patrick Vieira. Who would have thought he'd been managed to get the best out of Christian Benteke?
Well, I mean, the best is a stretch yet.
He's looking more like the Benteke there with that Villa.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
It's been a long time since we saw Benteke that could score in a purple pattern, like you're saying. I'm looking through some of the, obviously, fans send in to BBC Sport their ratings And the highest ranked Arsenal player got a 6 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that was Lacazette for his last minute equaliser, sorry. Thomas Partey didn't even get a 4.7.
He was woeful. He
And
gave
that
the
was
ball.
lucky.
He gave the ball away for the first goal, but time after time he kept getting caught in possession, trying to turn back towards his defence. And on another day, Palace could have easily stripped him of the ball and got 3 or 4 goals. If it wasn't for Ramsdale being so good in the nets. But yeah, I think Vieira can be disappointed that he hasn't left Arsenal with 3 points.
Indeed. Tanner, you were equally concerned about the amount they paid for Ramsdale. You championed the move of Ben White to Arsenal.
He's actually come out. He doesn't have a Twitter, but he said he's not called Ben White. He's called Benjamin White.
Has he now? Well, Ben White is going. When he starts playing, he can start being called what he wants to be called. Ben White, big money move, big player for Brighton last year. Hasn't really delivered. I mean, I know he had to isolate for a little bit, but he's not living up to that 50 million so far, is he?
I mean, I will only say that I champion Ben White in the sense that I think Arsenal needed a competent defender, and Ben White is a competent defender.
I'm based on the season so far. I'm yet to see that.
No, I mean he had a very good performance against Spurs, I think. But yeah, I would agree with you. I think for the most part, Arsenal have not really shown their defensive how good they are defensively. But before before we go any further, I mean, is that Ben White's fault or is that Mikel Arteta's fault? I mean, that should be the question. I think that as far as Aaron Ramsdale is concerned, you had mentioned that Aaron Ramsdale would have. I mean, a move for him to Arsenal would be great. But I think the opposite has happened. I think Arsenal should count their blessings that they signed Aaron Ramsdale because Bernd Leno was not looking great, in front of goal for the longest time until they brought Ramsdale in, and I think he's at least saved Arsenal a couple points here at this point.
Indeed, Ramsdale seems to be having the old De Gea effect, as in saving games for you literally, and it could be the difference between Europa Conference and Europa League in the end. And let's face it, no one wants to go in that Europa Conference. Not unless you want to be.
I would be happy if Burnley made it to the Europa Conference because it means that we at least finish mid-table.
It does, but yeah, it's. I have a lot of concerns about that. I mean, to be fair, you said that he was good against Tottenham, Tanner. Tottenham didn't show up against Arsenal at any. Apart, they pulled one back in the second half, but Tottenham were terrible that game. You can't say that Ben White turned up against them.
Yeah, I definitely could, because had Spurs been even just a little bit better than they were, they could have scored more goals, right? Yeah, so, I mean, Spurs, yes, were bad that game, but were they bad because Spurs were ineffective or not attacking? I think that they were. I think Spurs did attack the goal. I think that, again, you have to look at the defensive partnership that was in place there, and I think it was effective. I think Ben White, again, is a good defender. Is he 50 million pounds worth good? I think that's the issue, right? I think that's a little expensive for who Ben White is and what he brings to the table. That said, I think that he's a very particular defender. I think that he can carry the ball well, he can distribute well, he does all the things that you would want a defender to do. I think his problem is that he's not very effective when it comes to the aerial duels aspect of defense. And you need somebody who is taller and more physical and can jump higher than what he can in order to cover those blind spots that he has. I think that eventually he will be even better than what we've seen him be so far, which you've noted that you feel as though he hasn't been good. But I still feel as though, last year we saw a very good defender in Ben White when he was playing at Brighton.
I do hope that things turn around for Arsenal in general in terms of getting more points on the board, because if for no reason it means my brother doesn't win as much. So which is always a good thing. So that's all 10 matches wrapped up, unless I missed one, gentlemen. I think I did.
No, that's the whole lot.
Excellent, of course. We will be back with a volley next Monday, maybe a little bit earlier than it was tonight. Gentlemen, where can people find both of you on your Twitter machine if they want to, of course? If you have a hat on, talk now.
Oh, that would be me. I've got a hat. You can find me on Twitter at my personal account, which is TexasGentleman_, or you can just simply follow the Radio Tekkers Twitter account, which is RadioTekkers. And thank you for having me, Matt. This has been a lot of fun. I rarely get to come on these Monday night shows that you have.
It was a good time to have you on, sir. And if you have amazing hair like Mags, talk now.
Yes, I do. So you can follow me on Twitter at PodFatherMags. I am all over the content here on Radio Tekkers. We've got an amazing team full of exciting content creators and some really cool ideas coming up in the pipeline. So definitely give us a like, a sub, and hit that notification button so you don't miss any of our content. You can also find me with young Tannerino over here on A Changing Attitude, which is doing great numbers over on the chair shot. But yeah, come and give me a follow. It's always a good time.
It is indeed. And you can find me at Matt.UK. Find me on VGM. Find me here on Tekkers. It's just good to be a part of some amazing content with some amazing people. We'll be back for the volley next Monday, and we'll be back on Sunday or Saturday. We haven't sure yet which games we may or may not be covering, but keep an eye on the Tekkers Twitter feed, which Hannah will be sharing out when we have decided. So on behalf of us all here at Tekkers, this was the volley. I'm Matt, that's Mags, and that's Hannah. One more kablam for the road, Mags?
2 kablams.
Double kablam. Excellent. That means that we're out of here.